Oh, whoa, shoot. I guess, you know, this is where I normally stop it. See, I don't know how to do this so that it sees my face. Because I'm looking straight at it, but it looks like I'm looking off to the side. Okay, you can see some of my mess behind it. Okay, come on. Alright, I may have to start this over again, which I really don't want to because it's quite a process to get everybody in there, but I guess I didn't have this as stable as I thought I did before I started. So this is like my third live. Joe at, my friend Joe did her second live yesterday, and she was just talking about how it's kind of difficult. And, that's the thing. You think you have it all set up, and then you have all this, like, foofra with the thing. Okay, we'll move this in a minute, and I'll figure out some point how to make it look like I'm looking at you, but I'm not off to the side. So, good morning, y'all. It's Wednesday the 6th. This afternoon, I have a doctor's appointment, so I'm trying to get something done. I have quite a few projects on the books, and UFOs, and a couple special blocks I'm working on, but this morning I just wanted to get something work done, and somebody has been asking for these jar grippers, and now I couldn't find my sample one. They're pretty popular. Haven't made any in a minute. Let me look up here real quick and see if I can find you a picture that I can show you. But basically, they're two pieces of fabric. There's one of the homemade jar grippers, two different sizes. And then on the back is shelf liner. And they work really well. The smaller ones end up being about 4 inches, so they're really good to kind of put in your pocket or put in your car so you can open stubborn water bottles or soda bottles. The larger ones are great for jars, and they look nice on your counter or in your drawer. You can wash them, you know, and if you want, in a pinch, you can use them as a coaster because they have the nice rubber back. And I've learned some little tricks and tips along the way as I do it. Hang on a minute, got to check here. See what we're doing. Because, of course, everybody's got to say good morning or hello. I was going to do this yesterday. Well, Monday just ended up to be a marathon because I had a 5-minute doctor's appointment, and the lady was running an hour and a half late, and it was an hour and 20 minutes into town, and then my sister had a lab. And then yesterday, every time I thought about going live, there was a schedule conflict. So here we are. We're gonna see what we can do this morning. And I was gonna go on about an hour, about 6, but then I had to pull myself together. Morning, Kathy. How are you this morning? So, you know, I had to pull together the fabric and think about what I wanted to do and wake up and things like that. And then I have to figure all this YouTube-y stuff. And I haven't figured out how to do the chat on here, so I do it on another device because I really don't want to miss somebody if they comment, because it pops up here and yes, I could do the I'm doing all right this morning. You know, I figured out something that helps the hip a little bit, so it's not so angry with me this morning, which is good news. Can go get some help with my arthritic hands this afternoon. So, you know, I probably could, Randy. Morning, bro. Oh, come on now. I don't. So let me try again. Good morning, Vintage Style by Joe. Joe's great. iPad falling off the, trying to fall off the tripod and thinking about starting over, and then you have to type everything in, and then. Now, I could have put up the, I know if I put this, okay, there we go. The jar grippers that I was working on, but that was a beautiful, I actually think that was a sunset, but anyway, it was just a beautiful picture of the sky the other day, and it was morning, so here we are. Randy, you're pretty funny. He says, could I use duct tape to hold myself together? I probably could, and they actually now have the narrower duct tape, and they have duct tape with all kinds of designs on it. So there you go. Okay, I showed you a picture. I wish I had my sample. It's here, but as you can see, I've been working on the main area of my creative nook the past 3 weeks in between doctor's appointments and dog mayhem. So it's here somewhere. It will turn up. But basically, it's a quick project that's very useful and helpful. It's a good present if you want it. I will do a shorter tutorial. I know Shay Shay wanted to see me use my Martelli cutter, so I'm going to try and do that for her for a minute. I don't know how long I'm going to be on. I don't have a lot of, I've told y'all I don't have a lot of fancy equipment, so you get me. Basically for this project you can use scraps because you just need either 5-inch squares or 7-inch squares. So you can use a charm pack for the 5-inch squares, you can use scraps, or you can just cut it. I'm not sure where my scraps are for this or the cut pieces I had left over. Oh, darn. And then you need shelf liner. Now, you can get shelf liner in the States at a dollar place. You can get it at Wally World. I prefer the open kind of shelf liner for this. If you look at the weave, when you sew it in, it grips the lid better. A tight weave or the one with the squares does not seem to grip as well. So I get mine at Joann's, and I wait till it's 40% off and get and it's wide. It's, you know, it's on a utility roll. So I think last time I got some, I paid like $3 a yard, and so it's extra wide, $3 a yard. You can make a heck of a lot of jar grippers out of a yard of this. But you can experiment like I have. You can try different kinds. I've just found that the open weave with these little knobby things in the middle grips the lids better. And I tried several kinds. I tried the Dollar Tree kind, I tried the Wally World kind, and I just did not find that it gripped as well. And that's it. You know, 5-inch squares. You know, a lot of tutorials say 6.5-inch squares, but that's a pain. So I usually do 7-inch squares just for my brain. 2 pieces of fabric, 1 piece of shelf liner. And if you want to adjust the size and you want to make one that's giant because you have a giant jar of pickles to open or something like that, the sky's the limit, because you just do all 3 pieces the same size. Thank you, Randy. Yeah, I'm sure the bars look really good. I'm hoping that my sound isn't in and out. Shoot. It feels like Monday morning and it's hump day instead. Is that better, Randy? So what I did was I just went and pulled some pieces I had. I have some of this. I have some lemons in that and this. I was thinking about William and the pineapplers, so I pulled out a little piece of pineapple that just seemed eclectic fun this morning. Donuts. This little piece that has just lettuce, carrots. You can use any design, and like I say, if you have you have leftover charm squares that you don't know what to do with, or scraps, thank you, Randy, I appreciate that, then you can use those. Normally I would have everything cut for this video, but like I said, my good friend and sister by another mother, Shay Shay, wanted me to show her some of my rotary cutter. And yes, we're not having an earthquake. That's Dementia Dog, who's decided to scratch herself underneath my cutting table, and so the whole table vibrates, and she usually waits till when it's not convenient to do it. Cut it out, girl. I finally get you settled down. Stop scratching your ear. But yeah, she'll be quiet and sleeping, and I'll go to cut, and all of a sudden the table is vibrating. Now, like I told Shay Shay, how you doing this morning, Randy? Are you going live later? I appreciate everybody that's joined me. Hi, Cheryl. I'm doing pretty good this morning, Joe. My hip on Sunday, Monday, and Sunday and Monday was like at a 7 or 8, and I'm like, why? And I figured out some of it was my temporary sleeping situation, and when I made a simple adjustment there, that has helped a lot because that distracts. They're gonna work on my osteo, because I'm both osteo and psoriatic, so we're doing good. I took a day off yesterday, and I told my sister and everybody I'm not going out, no errands unless your hair's on fire. And so I got a bunch of rest yesterday. I wanted to do a live, and I wanted to get some tutorials going, and I didn't, because, well, first of all, I was kind of bouncing between, I started with this great lady named Jo, on Vintage Style by Jo. When I came on, she was doing her second live. She did a fantastic job. You should check her out. She's got some great projects. And I don't know what it was at Joe about a year ago. She did a giveaway, and I won this that she made. His name's Henry. And the cool thing is my father's middle name was Henry. Henry sits up here on my shelf. I see him every day. Reminds me to shoot up a prayer for Joe and how special he is. At some point, I'm going to make Henry a girlfriend because he's kind of getting a little lonely here. But she has a tutorial for how to do these and many other scrappy projects, and how to find do things on a more inexpensive level, and they're all incredible. So I'm going to give a shout out for Joe and Mr. Henry sitting up there before I start. But when I was cooking the infamous birthday dinner, my friend Shay Shay asked me about rotary cutters. Now, this is something we could debate probably for a good while, because everybody has their preference, and that's the thing. I have a graveyard, a literal graveyard of rotary cutters. I'm old school. I was raised with scissors. Rotary cutters always seemed a bit, and I tried several, from cheap ones from Walmart. You're very welcome, Joe. You're great. Cheryl, it's good to see you. How you doing this morning? Kathy's on. My brother Randy's on. He's my brother by another mother. But anyway, will you cut it out? Sorry, that's my dog. See? It's like a Monday. From Walmart, like Westcott's to Alpha's to somebody gave me a True Cut with the rail system with some, because they had never used and they weren't going to ever use it. And then I gave in and got a Martelli. Now, some people love this, some people can't get it to work. When I first put the 20 bucks into this is a right-handed one. They make a blue for left-handed. After about a week and a half, I was ready to just give up on rotary cutters. But it was user error. One, they had put a dull blade in here. Two, the little plastic fin that sits in here for the blade was missing a fin. So I did some surgery on it. And then I watched a video that showed me how to use it. And I wasn't using it properly. I didn't have my hand position. So once I did that, yes, Joe, Henry is very cute. I'm looking at the comments. Once I figured out that I need to hold it with kind of my thumb in this little puka here and my finger up here. Oh, yeah, okay, how do I do that? Oh, good. Here we go. See, I'm learning, and my friend's helping me learn. And, oh, shoot. So I gotta figure out. No, I don't know. Maybe, is it under my settings, Randy? Oh, click on their name. Okay. Do. Okay. We'll get Joe in there. Okay, this is the thing. This is my third live, and so I'm learning how to do this. And when you get morning, Deb, how are you doing this morning? Giggles is on. One thing that you learn is that sometimes you'll have people pop up that want to do nothing but mischief. They don't have anything better in their life. There's something on the screen and it's bugging me. They have nothing better to do in their life than to come on and create problems in your chat, spam, whatever, say things that are just totally inappropriate. So in setting up and getting going, I'm still learning. That's why there's a chance of puttering and rambling. So anyway, back to the cutter. And I found out I just wasn't holding it correctly, and that there's a little divot here, a little puka here. And if you put your thumb in it and you put your finger here, you have great control. And for me, after, not long of using it the correct way, I can cut sitting down fairly accurately. I can cut standing up. It works with my wrist. It works with my arthritis. Now, some of y'all will stick with an OLFA, a standard, regular rotary cutter. I don't have one over here. That's been around forever. Great, because you have to find what works for you, what you're comfortable with. So I'm just going to say that it took me, I kept getting rotary cutters either at estate sales or buying them on sale or finding them in the clearance section or whatever. Thank you, Randy. And the thing is I was just afraid I was going to cut my finger off. I wasn't getting a straight cut, whatever. So this for me was working well. I had a question over here. See, I do that, and whenever I'm on, I'm gonna be informal. What you see is what you get. Scary, I know. So, I appreciate everybody who's on. I've got Auntie Patricia, good morning. Thank you for joining me. I don't know how long I'm gonna be on. I'm still figuring things out. Randy's been helping me, and I've got a lot of encouragement. I actually have 5 people on this morning. Woot woot. Um, and we're working on jar grippers. And I've lost my sample. And instead of wasting time finding it, I um I showed a picture, and then I lost the picture. But if you give me a minute, okay. So this is my homemade jar gripper. It has two squares of fabric, and then it has shelf liner on the back. Um, the other thing that I was gonna try and do this morning is my dear friend Shay Shay and sister by another mother from New Jersey. That's and I'm reading comments. Yes, Joe, that's right. She says if I find something that works, I keep it. But Shay Shay, when we did the turkey episode with the birthday dinner, asked me if I could show her some cutting with my Martelli, because this is my go-to and favorite. Not everybody's. Find one that's your favorite. So since I needed to cut some 5-inch squares and 7-inch squares, because I try and make the math simple, I figured I'd do a little bit of cutting for the jar grippers. And this is I was saying earlier, and you'll probably hear this a couple times because this is not a tutorial, this is puttering. I use this kind of shelf liner. I have tried a ton of different kinds. I found that this open weave with these little bumpy things, yes, I'll be in jail for you again, Randy. These little bumpy knobs, it, for me, grips the best. The one with the little tight squares doesn't seem to grip as well. I had my sister, who's 10 years older than I am, try it. I had a couple people try 5 or 6 different kinds of shelf liner. If you can find something anywhere that has this kind of open weave with the bumpy knobs on it like this, from my experience, it will work better for opening your jars. And the fabric makes it nice because it's comfortable on your hand. Like the silicone ones, you just have the silicone. It's fairly easy to sew. There's a couple tips and tricks that, if I get there today, I'll share with you. We may have to do a part 2. Pardon me. I personally get mine at Joann's. It's on the big roll, the big long roll. And I wait for it's on sale. And I think last time I paid like $2.50, $3 a yard. That's 3 feet. That's 3 feet of shelf liner that's wider, that's probably, I think, 54 inches. At 5 and 7 inches, you're going to make a lot of jar grippers out of that for not a lot. But I know some of y'all are in different countries, so. Morning, Debbie. How you doing this morning? You caught me live. Thank you, Cheryl, for lurking. Oh, you have your grandson in bus duty. Well, I'm glad you're lurking. It's good to see everybody this morning. So, I'm so blessed with the community that I have, and that y'all are so patient with me. It's some days are just quite a ride. So, basically, and you know, you don't need, you can use, like I'm going to start and say again, you can use charm squares, you can use any scraps you have. Now, I have scraps, but they're buried in a bin. So I just grabbed some smaller pieces of random food fabric this morning. This looks good. I saw this and thought of William and the Pineapplers. This I got on clearance. And, incredible deal. So I have a bunch of this. This is another lemon pattern that's popular. Pulled out some of this. So, I'm going to do a little cutting, and I'll show you how to put it together. I'm so happy that, you know, Joe's come in, and Cheryl's come in, and my brother Randy's come in. Randy, are you doing a live later? And Debbie and Auntie Patricia and Giggles. Don't want to miss anybody. So what and I love my Omni Grip or Omni Grid rulers because they're accurate. If I have this ruler and I have two of them. It's none of these things are going to vary between rulers. They're very, very strict on accuracy. The grip, the difference between a grip and an Omni Grid is the backing. The grip already has the backing on it. If I end up with a grid one, I get their invisible grip on a roll. It's not very expensive. You cut it and it kind of static clings to the back of the ruler. It gives grippy to it, but it doesn't. I don't like the dots because I feel like when you put the dots on, you have like a few areas that are slightly raised. So your ruler can be not flat, because even if they're like 2 millimeters, they're going to be 5-6 places that are 2 millimeters higher than the actual ruler. So I use the invisible grip if I don't have the Omni Grip ruler, and most of mine I think are Omni Grip because I've just been blessed to find good Omni Grip. So there's that. So what I do is I take, and I normally, see how I've used this fabric. So there's definitely some scraps around because this one has been cut a few times. I think I made a kitchen scarf out of this because this is just and I have several cooking fabrics. Molly, my dementia dog, is just not being helpful this morning. You are making a mess, and I am trying to concentrate and do this. You're making an earthquake. Yes, either lay down, go on the porch, or go see Mom. Okay? I don't know what's up this morning. Sorry. Dementia dog was just not behaving. Thank you, Joe. I have, over the last 4 years, been very blessed from various sources, and I have just picked up. I have an eclectic collection. If I see it and I like it, I will grab it. So, and especially if I can get a remnant. Oh, sorry. My brain just sparked with something. I'll be right back. I got this really cool remnant, which I could use for these the other day. And it was funny because they said 44 inches by 45 inches, and it was not. It was actually 5/8. But Hobby Lobby had it marked 22 cents. And I'm like, you're going in my basket. And you don't have to use food-related fabric. If it's Christmas, if you like dogs, if you like cats, if you like cows, if you like butterflies, bees, gnomes, if it's Christmas, if it's Valentine's Day, pick things out. But this is a perfect fabric for doing these. And this piece, like I said, for whatever reason, 22 cents. That'll make quite a few different little things. And I think I can squeeze out maybe even some pot holders or something like that. So I'm going to put that here. You're very welcome. Sure, you're very welcome. Let me check here. Gonna go for a bit and be back in 15 minutes. Hope you're still here. Thank you very much, Cheryl. Morning, Michelle. Yeah, Debbie. Oh, you can hear the rooster? These things, I'm in the house, but I have the door open because Dementia Dog is just really unsettled right now. And I was hoping she'd go out on the porch and just lay down. But it has been raining this morning, which is always not good for the bones. Thank you, Auntie Patricia. Okay, for those of you that don't know, we have Deb and I have dachshunds, and we have a couple basset hounds. They are my children. I was not able to have children. This is a rambling bit. And Molly is actually my chosen nephew, my chosen sister's youngest grandson. And when he was 8, he came and he wanted this Border Collie mystery mix. pup that he'd fallen in love with at church. And it was all on me. If I said no, then they wouldn't, because the dog had to stay here. His mom was like, So Molly was supposed to visit for a year or two until they moved into a house or place that had dogs. Well, Molly's been with us for 15 years. Molly's entering the late stages of her life. I don't think she'll be with us long, but she definitely, her dementia's gotten worse, and so some days she just can't get settled. But her favorite place today is she took half the bottom shelf of my clearance found cutting table. So hopefully won't have any more earthquakes where she suddenly decides to catch a fly or to scratch. Sometimes I feel like I put a quarter. As a kid, we'd stop at these motels every once in a while, and you put a quarter in the bed, and the bed would massage you for so many minutes, and all of a sudden, you saw that at the beginning of the video. Thought I was in California. So back what I'm doing. So I will put the edges together, and then I will cut a strip, and then I'll cut it down, and then I will take the salvages off. Morning, Mary. How are you doing this morning? Got all the friends in the house. Thank you for the people that I've been able to put up as moderators for now. See if we'll get some more. So I'm going to try without dropping this, because I haven't used this over here to tilt you down so you can see what I'm doing. And most of y'all already got this. You know, it's like you got this. So hang with the ceiling for a minute. I don't have a lot of fancy equipment. I don't have a lot of cameras, so I don't have all these different angles. So normally I can get this in a minute. So it's pointing down, but I switched tables so you could see my cutting table, and the iPad fell off, and we've just had fun this morning. So let's see if that kind of works. Can you see me now? I may have to move my gnome tribe from back behind the camera. But that's pretty good. Yeah, Debbie, you need to stay home. You need to take care of yourself. You need to get to feeling better. And you definitely don't need to share. Thank you, Debbie. So, what I do when I'm doing a bunch, because I'll probably do 2 or 3, and this is mainly for people like Shay Shay who's just learning, they're practicing. Hang on a minute. I told you there was a slight chance of ramblings and putterings, and this is the rambling of the moment. He caught me sitting in this chair trying to do something. He doesn't care that it's alive or I'm in the middle of something. He wants a minute. This is Mocha, everybody. This is the nose that you see on my thumbnail for my channel. I put that up there when several years ago, and I haven't taken it down because every time I see it, you want to boop the nose. And he's my Velcro dog. So I'm sorry, we have to take 1 minute of Doxy. Camera hog. Yeah, Debbie, it's really, my friend Debbie from The Cool Effect, let's give a shout out for her channel. She's amazing. She does a live on Tuesday morning and Thursday afternoon. Great people. Might want to hop over there and check her out. Now, can I get to work? I've got Dementia Dog settled and not tripping over my feet and causing an earthquake. And now I can't hold you and cut. I definitely will not cut straight. We could have done this when I was talking a little while ago. Here. You can climb up on this box and sit on my fabric till I cut it. How's that? Come on. Sit right here. There you go. Got your own place. Every shelf just about, that's accessible in here. There is part of the bottom shelf that they've claimed a piece of fabric, and they lay. I have no, I had planned to use the whole bottom of this beautiful cutting table for storing things and putting things, and Molly decided, the Border Collie Mix decided that that was her place. So I will, and so Shay Shay and whoever's out there that's starting out or wants tips, get a good mat. Invest the money in a good mat. I love Olfa. I tried Creative Grids. They're expensive mats. I found them slicker than snot on a doorknob. And I had a brand new one that I picked up at an estate sale that the lady hadn't used. And I used it for 2 months in the same spot I've used this one for 9 months. And I left for an hour and I came back and the whole middle edge was warped over here. And I contacted the company and I got a chase your tail situation. Some people love them. If they work for you, then howdy doody. This little mat here on the side, it does rotate. And I forget about that. But get a good mat. Good mat with good measurements, self-healing. You can get, if you live in the States and you have someplace like Joann's, wait till they have a 50% off. You can get a good size mat. And these are lifetime warranted. That's the other thing. Olfa stands behind the mats. So if there's a problem with the mat, it warps, it cracks, whatever, in normal usage, they will fix it. So, and you want a decent sized mat because you don't want to fight. Eventually, maybe you want to get one of these fancy spinning mats like I have over here to the side. But to be honest, I didn't get that spinning mat till I found it on a lady who was closing up her long arm. And I got a good deal on it because spinning mats, because they're expensive. So I line up my bottom edge with the line here on the cutting mat. I find the appropriate ruler. And I get one of my baby rulers. Now this is a OmniGrid, and it's only for measuring, not for cutting. It's a 3-piece set, so you get this large one, and this middle line is a 1/4 inch. So you can easily slap it down and check your 1/4 inch seam with this middle line. There's the 5 inch, they have I think it's 7 inch, and that's over there, and then they have this long one. It's always a 3-piece set. You can get these a lot of places, find a coupon. I have 2 or 3 sets of these, so I have them over here and I have them over there. So if I'm doing a 5 inch, I will put my ruler down like this, and I will butt this up against my ruler. First of all, I will check the end, and this is not even. Somehow, when I did my last cut, it's not even. And I will look at my line on the top and the bottom, and I'll do a slight trim. So with this, I roll it like that to open the blade, and then I line this up. I get a good grip on it, just like that. And I throw it on the floor, which means that I'll have a pile of those trimmings to pick up later. Sometimes I have a little bag to put them in, but the pups like to take the bag and scatter it, so I have to pick it up anyway. So basically what I do is make sure it's kind of trimmed, and then I'll go down. That's 5 inches. This is 5 inches. I'll run it right down and confirm. And check here to see if my lines are lining up with the top and the bottom. And there you go. So you see, you just hold it and go straight. And for me, this has a lot more control than a stick. Especially with my arthritic hands, it doesn't make my hands and my wrists cramp. Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie. Be praying for you. There is. I still have, it's been almost 2 weeks, and I still have some sinus stuff going on. Sniffly stuff going on. So then I will lay out, in this case, lay out this piece. Now, I have used this before for jar grippers or something. Probably use this for a kitchen scarf. So I will take off the salvage. Now, personally, I collect salvages, and on occasion, if you need something that's a salvage, I will share, because I have lots of salvage projects. So I will usually leave a little bit extra of the salvage. Some people call it waste. It's my personal preference, because when I use the salvage, and it's blank like this, I'll have a little tidbit of what it was. So in this case, I just want to do 2 layers. So I make sure it's even. Put this on, just eyeball it, because I'm just doing a straight edge. I just want to make sure this edge is really straight, and both of these pieces will go in separate scrap bags. So once again, I put my hand on there like this. Go like that. There's the cut. Go in the scrap pile. I'll go over here. Once again, with my I'll take my little measure only and go up and go down. Grip it like this. And I did a big no-no there, because you're supposed to, after every cut, go like that for safety and just flip the cover back. But if I'm doing continuous cuts, I try and have it in a safe place to the side. And then as soon as I'm done making the series of bump, bump, bump cuts, then I will close it. Or if I know I'm going to take a break or something like that, but I have it setting down. Now, that's probably bad cutting etiquette, but if I'm going to be just doing like several of these, it's a real pain to open and close it every 2 seconds. So I try to make sure this is even. So hopefully this helps Shay and other people. This is my method. Some other people may have other methods. Like when she was asking, I told her I was working on a quilt block, and it called for like of one color. It started at like 2 inches and went down to 3/4 of an inch, and I said I just cut my strip 2 inches, did my 2-inch pieces, then went down to 1.5 inches, and then 3/4, and that way there was less waste in my brain and it was easier. Back here, 5-inch there, 5-inch there. Grippy it. See, that's why I like these little things, because you can just go like that. Now, if you have, see, scrap bin, and I'm sure somebody in the chat's going, I want the scrap. Hey, Donnell, how you doing this morning? I'm sure somebody's eyeing my scraps again. Where is it? Oh, so down here, when I'm doing a bigger piece and I'm afraid about the top of my ruler, I have a bunch of these weights, 3, 5, 2 pounds from PT. I will probably need them again, but they're perfect for holding your ruler down. So if you get a wide piece of fabric and you're using a long ruler like this, that you may feel like it's going to slip because you're moving your hand down to hold it down, find something like this. For a long time I used these to hold fabric down so it wouldn't slip. They're just washers, and they have weight to them, and I could put them on the fabric after I measured it, and it kept the fabric from slipping. And I have various sizes. I have smaller ones. And these I just got from the hardware store for a few pennies each. One day I'm going to cover them with fabric so they look pretty. But that hasn't happened in 3.5 years. But I needed something simple to keep the fabric from slipping when I was drawing a pattern on. So I just went and spent less than $5 and got about 20 of these. So I could scatter them in different sizes. Something that just helps you, that's not real expensive. You can make, and I want to make some, you can make pattern weights. And you can use glass beads. You can use the pellets and make pattern weights, or you can buy them. And pattern weights are expensive with somebody else, but someday we'll get to that. But these little things, if you can find them at a garage sale, yard sale, Walmart, or something like that, they're very helpful when you're doing a larger ruler cut. It keeps the top from slipping. You just put it down, the weight holds it down, and you just move your hand around it. I'll get out the 5-pound weight if I'm doing something really big. So I have my squares. I have 2 sets of them. I will find a backing. Now, what I try and do is I try and find a coordinated peach, a black, a blue to go on the inside. It's totally up to you what you use for the inside piece. Some people skip the second layer. I don't skip the second layer, 1, because it's a 5 or 7 inch square, and 2, because it gives it body. So then I will take some of this shelf liner grippy stuff, and I have a pair of, this is my cutting other things in fabric scissors, and basically the easiest way to cut this stuff is to cut a piece off, because and this one I've cut down because it's like 54 inches wide, so it's even just a yard or a half yard is a big piece to manage. So a lot of times I'll just cut a piece off of it to manage it. I think I've cut several jar grippies off of this one. So and if it's not perfect, you'll be able to trim it up, because stuff like this is kind of notorious for, so once you get this down into a 5 or 7 inch square, you'll be able to and I'll be doing several of these. So usually what I'll do is I'll spend an hour or so gathering scraps, and sometimes longer, picking out my fabrics, making sure they're cut, and then I'll batch sew them. But this morning I'm sure you guys want to just kind of get a peek at what I do for this, because it's very simple. Once you get this technique down and you do these, you can knock out a bunch of these. And so I would basically do the same thing that I do when I'm regular cutting. I don't have a second rotary cutter with a bad blade, which probably would make cutting this a breeze. But so I would check for 5 inches. In this case, I will use one of these handy dandy things, and my new one's missing. I'll use a fusion pen or some kind of marking pen, and I'll just basically mark where I need to cut. And this is fairly straightforward. I marked this wrong, but this is basically straightforward, because once you mark this, you'll see right here that basically I'm like always going to be right in between this right here. So that makes it easier to eyeball cut. Lost my cat. I'm so glad everybody joined my impromptu live this morning. I've been trying to get up here for a while, been trying to get tutorials done. What do I do with my mark? I'll remark it. So, take the 5 inch, put it over here. Now, the bottom layer may not cut the same as the top layer, and that's fine, because once you sew this in, you'll trim it. You'll trim it up, and it'll be all good. And so there's a basic 5 inch piece, and this ruler is only a 6 inch, the smaller one, and its partner is like only 3 inches, and then you have the big one in the set. So I'll take this one, and I'll find the 7. So I'm finding the 7 inch mark, and I'm putting the 7 inch mark, if I can get my brain to function, I'm putting the 7-inch mark on the edge here. So I don't take my ruler and start with 1 inch and go, well, there's 7 inch and have my ruler hanging over. I put the mark of what I want to cut right there. So I'll just start this. But you see, it's pretty easy to cut through. It's easy to sew through. Ooh, got the, there you go. There's some 7-inch. These will be 5-inch. They come out, they're kind of small ones, the 5-inch, but they're great for pill bottles. Or if you have one of these, they made the caps. There's only one company I found that made the caps big enough for hands to grip. Most of the caps are like itty bitty, and I don't know how they expect half the population to get them off. The 5-inch ones are perfect for something like this. You can put it in your pocket. You can have it in the glove box or in the little thing in the car. You can. So, and the 7-inch is better for larger jars. And then, like I said, I will often cut up several. You only need one piece of this. See, now this will have to be trimmed a little. No worries about that. Like I said, I'll usually get a stack of this grippy stuff cut, and then a stack of fabric cut. Go back here. These are 7-inch. My ruler correct. 7 inches. Fit yourself right there together. You're not rocket science. You're not really wanting to cooperate. Now, when I get to this point, I'm going to try and line up these little grippy dot things just to make it easier when you cut it. And like I said, this you can trim down because it shifts. It's a little fiddly. I'll be alright. Come on. You were there. There you go. Alright, so that's good. And this is a grid, so that's two. So that's two jar grippers. This will be 4. So you see, it doesn't take a lot. And you can fiddle around with different types of jar gripper. Dollar Tree or Walmart. But I'll tell you, I've been down that road. I've done that road. I've tried several different kinds. And you really, really want to look for the wide weave with these little knobs, because it just grips better, in my opinion. And I had Deb test it. She's 10 years older than I am, and some other people test it. And you know, here's 2 or 3 different ones I've made. There's 4. This is a little piece. Now see, I could cut this and I could make a 3-inch jar grippy if I wanted. I could make a 4-inch jar grippy. So this one is 4.5 inches. So if I wanted to use it, I could make a 4.5 and a 4.5. Because you're gonna, whatever size, they're all 3 pieces are gonna be identical. So here we go. Slap this together. And these are 5-inch. I'm gonna get rid of these little ornery things. I'll have to take my rug squeegee. I have this thing I found on Amazon for doing the carpets or doing the hardwood floors, and I tell you what, it gets the dog hair up there. It's inexpensive. It's like a silicone something. It's like a silicone broom. So these are 5 inches. that. Now I'm going to get, what, 2 out of this piece of the 5-inch. This will be 4. Are you just having a problem matching up? You are having a problem matching up. Okay, there we go. 5 inches. I'm going to make this one a little longer because sometimes it's just easier not having these little knobbly things to worry about. So I'm going to trim this up. Six. So you see, a little bit of this goes a fairly long way. And these last pretty good. I have a couple in the kitchen. I could have grabbed the one in the kitchen. I have a couple that are in the kitchen that I've used for like 2 years. And let me tell you, they've held up well. They're inexpensive, so if you destroy them, then grab another one. Make another one. If I wasn't doing video and I was just making it, it'd be a lot faster. I'm going to trim off the knobbly stuff on the end because sometimes these little bits when I'm sewing just are annoying to me. So that was what, 6? 8. I'll get at least 8 out of this 5-inch square. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Especially since I paid like, on sale, I think I paid $3 for a yard of this at 54 inches or so. And a yard's 3 feet of this. So, yeah, you can just have yourself some grippy stuff. Sometimes going to the Dollar Tree, you'll get a really good deal on something, and it's good, it works. And then sometimes you can go with your coupon to some place like Joann's and get a better deal for what you're getting. But this stuff at Joann's is in the utility puka. So now I have my grippies. Put you over there. I didn't cut a 7-inch. I think I'll do this gingerbread fabric that's frayed real bad. I'm just going to cut a piece of it up real quick. For my 7-inch, because that's basically where I got it. So I'll do the same thing. I'm going to cut off the salvage. I'm going to make you guys wince because when I cut my salvage, I cut a little bit extra because especially on one of these that comes from like the Lobby or Jay's. This one's from the Lobby. It's very soft. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing this morning? Oh, not a problem. I just popped up for a live. I've almost been going for an hour. Because I've been trying to get a live in. And, and this and that and the other thing. I've been trying to get some tutorials done. But I thought, well, before I have to go out late this afternoon for my hand appointment, I would try and get something done, and I have managed to set my favorite ruler down somewhere, so I'll use the longer one. That smaller Omni Grip ruler, I use that. That is like my go-to for, because I mean, if you have to get one ruler or 2 rulers, you know, start with something like this, so you have the width, and you have a good length. This one's 14, this one's weird. This one says 14 inches. I would think it would be 15. Good markings. It even has your 45, 60, 30 degree. It's a good size, won't poke you in the eye. And then find a longer one for your longer cuts. And then find a good square. Those are the 3 that if you can only have some rulers, you get a good 10-inch square. This one isn't. This is my 8.5 inch, but my 10 inch is up there. You find a good 10-inch square. You find a little fat stubby. This one's 3 inches wide. and you find a skinny one like this. If you're just starting. Okay, so this is my 10-inch ruler, and as you can see, the last time I was doing a French braid table runner, I was doing several, and so I was cutting on this line, so I just put painter's tape on there so I could fussy cut an eyeball. I probably should take it off, but see, that's the thing, I put it on. I can take it off, no marking, and there you go. But that's been here since, for a little bit. The last time I was doing, but I now have probably two 10-inch squares, and I picked up rulers. You can use, use whatever you can, but just realize that if you can get a good ruler, Creative Grids, Omni Grip, something like that, it will have more accurate measurements, and that's what you want. A Dollar Tree ruler is decent, but it doesn't guarantee that your inch is going to be a full inch and not going to be off even a millimeter or 2 millimeters. Now we're having an earthquake because the Dementia Dog is quick. So you want to find a ruler you're comfortable with, that you can see, that works well for you, but that you know is accurate and is going to be accurate from one ruler to the next ruler to the next ruler. I tried Fiskars when I started early on. I couldn't see the markings well, and I got frustrated. I've tried a couple others. Creative Grids are great rulers. They're expensive. So these, I can see the markings on lighter fabrics like this, darker fabrics, and it has all the little functions I need. I have a lot of specialty, so no, and I'm not sponsored by Omni Grip. I wish I was, because I would get a bunch more of the rulers that are specialty. Would you cut it out? You know I'm doing this, and you want to, I don't know what you're doing under there. She usually waits till I'm cutting. That's a good habit to get into. So here's my salvage. It will go in the salvage bag, the Christmas salvage bag. Come over here. Get rid of this before I knock it on the floor. So you see, here's my 7. And here's my 1 over here. So I can just run this all the way up like that. I can check up here and down here to make sure I'm lined up. I'm lined up on my mat. And it gives me, it's not going to, I don't know anybody who ever gets totally perfect. On this one, I have to get a good grip. It's not really long enough for me to futz with a weight. I roll this to open it. If you forget, you're going to stutter. But you see how easy that is, and I can do that sitting down if I need to. I typically tend to stand because that's what most normal people do. It's just, it's so nice to see people coming in and out. I try not to, with people that have helped me and people that are on a lot, I try not to, if they're going live, I try and bump around them, because I think that's respect and courtesy. There's some people that have really helped my channel, and if I'm knowledgeable, right? If I know that Miss Rita or Randy or Donnell or whatever, or Debbie's going on, Joe, great channels, I will try and delay. If I don't know, then that's just pure ignorance, and pardon me. Here it is, see, I had it covered up. But this is probably, this 12.5 inch by 2 inch Omni Grip is probably the ruler I reach for, like, the most. This is the other ones. these little ones. I use these little ones all the time. I infrequently use the long one that comes with it, but I use this one and its little baby brother. And this, like I said, this line in the middle, that's a perfect 1/4 inch. So if you need to check a seam or something like that, you just set that puppy down, and it's easy to see, easy to line up. These are not for cutting. These are for measuring only. They're I'll have to look up the name of them. I got mine at Joann's because I could get a coupon, 40% off one regular priced item. So it made them very expensive. I can get them off of Amazon. Gonna do the same thing, straighten this up. I know this is kind of boring for you guys who do this every day and probably do it better than me, but there's a couple people who are huge supporters who are just starting out, and I really want to see them get into quilting. I want to see them, creating. So I do the same thing. I just take this longer one, run it down, boom. Now, some people use 2 layers of this and their gripper. Personally, I think that's a waste to put this on the inside. I will find a baby blue, some kind of baby blue to go on the inside. That's me personally. It's the same way with this. I'll find a cream or a black, not a black, I'll find a teal or this kind of orangey, peachy, or a pink to go on the inside, because you're going to see it when you flip it over, but you're not going to, if you're going to leave it on your counter, you're going to leave this pretty side up. So I think it's a waste to use the pretty fabric on both the inside and the top. That's me personally. It saves a step if you use the same design on the inside and the outside. See, now I can tell that my ruler does not look straight. So that would be straight. So I have a problem in Houston, because that's 7 inches and that's not. So somehow this must have been the other end of this piece of fabric, because remember I had 2 ends and I only cleared up one. So I caught that. I could have cut this at 7 inch and it been 7 here and here, but it would have been a wonky, and that'll throw off your project or your quilt, because I've done that not realizing that I've got the ruler slightly skewed. I've got it perfectly 7 inch, but see, I've got it slightly skewed to make it 7 inch to top to bottom, and I'm trying to sew it, and it's like, so that's a good tip for those that are newer to this, is just make sure you're checking not just this 7 inch by 7 inch tidbit here, but that you're checking to see that your lines here are straight. And if they're not straight, then go back and straighten this edge and come back and cut, because it will save you a lot of grief, especially if you're doing something precision. Okay, look. Scrap bag. So there's 2, 4, there's 6. This will be 6 jar grippies just out of this fabric, unless I choose to use this for something else too. I may grab a piece of this and fussy cut it for a mug rug, because because I can cut it down. I can cut it down and do like do and have these 4 things and use them as a spot light in a mug rug. But these are handy for many things now that they're cut. Same thing with this. I only cut 4 of these. Now I'm gonna well, thank you very much, Donnell. Well, we need to do that. I think that would be a lot of fun. We just coordinate the schedule. I would enjoy that. So I'm going to pop over. I'm probably not going to take you with me. I'm going to pop over and see if I can find solid real quick because you know what? I pulled some fabrics because I knew what I wanted to use and I was going to cut. But I know you guys kind of want to see one put together. And I didn't grab any backings. That's why this is not a tutorial and this is a live. Thank you very, very much, Donnell. I think that would be great. Hi, Deborah. It's good to see you. I'm pretty excited that it says there's 15 people. So that's like, you know, and some people have come in and gone out, and I'm just really blessed. Oh, look, I found it. See, here's one I made. And I made this a year and a half ago. And I've used it a lot. And you see, it's still in good shape. Now, this one even traveled, so it's a little roughed up. That's why it's my sample, because it went in a suitcase and it got beat up. And went in a backpack out to Arizona last summer on a stupid trip. But I need to find this because I really like this pattern. But see, I kind of fussy cut this so you could see the chicks and the chicken a little bit. But this I made last year, so what I did was, you see, I have the chick fabric on the front. I used honeycomb. Just like a simple honeycomb for the inside. A lot of people would have used another piece of the chick fabric, but I think that's a waste. This one finished is 5¼ inches. So this was a 7-inch. Well, maybe 6½. Because most tutorials say you use a 6½-inch square. But when you get into that 6½ stuff, it's a pain in the butt because you're just going to use them all the same. Now, one thing that I do is I try and round my corners. This was one of my first ones that I made of these 1.5, 2 years ago. I like rounded corners. If you don't want to round your corners, don't round your corners. Leave them pointy. Poke your eye out. And the other thing I do that I have never seen anybody do is I just put a simple zigzag stitch like this because it keeps this from wiggling around and bunching up, and it gives it some stability. Is it necessary? Probably not. It takes 3 minutes to add this center stitch. And like I said, now this one's kind of fallen apart a little bit, but it's been out in the elements. It's not been in my kitchen. It's been on a wild adventure, Arizona and Tennessee and a few other places, so almost 2 years is not bad. But see, 2 layers and you'll end up with the grippy. You'll end up with a nice accent fabric on the back and the front. And this is the bigger one, the smaller one. Well, thank you very much, Donnell. Thank you, Joe. I try and find, you know, cool fabrics and kind of coordinate. And I try not to waste my design. And I just think it's lazy to either not put an inner piece of fabric. Now, this is my personal opinion. To either not put that second inside piece of stabilizing fabric, or to use something like your outside design, because like I'm going to get 7 out of the 7-inch. I'm going to get 7 or 8 out of the 5-inch accent fabric. Or I could get 3. And all I need to do is find a nice solid, which I apologize for not doing that before I came on. Okay, here's a nice lavender. Yeah, this will work. This should work. I should coordinate all right with those colors, even though it's not a green. And I try and kind of stay away from the white a little bit, because if you want to use it as a coaster, because the grippy stuff will keep it from slipping around, especially with kids. You know, white's going to get stained a little bit easier. but I grabbed that white design this morning, and you know, there you have it. Um, Hoobah, you know. Maybe that'll be nice. I'm sorry, guys. This is a puttering video. So I had everything ready except for the inside fabric. But I decided this morning that I was going to just do it. This may be a little dark, we'll see. And I'm still working on organizing, so I have stuff in different places right now. Oh, this is better. Nope, that's dark and light. Oh, there's a perfect piece, and there's 2 scraps of it. You're coming with the scraps. But like I said, you don't have to use, just because you use these a lot in the kitchen, you don't have to use kitchen-y fabric. You can use, here we go. This will work perfect, I think, with this for a real quick pick. And I have scraps. So, this will make at least 2, and we can get this bugger going, and then you can see the process. So, as you can see, I will have to trim up this scrap. Alright, Donnell. I hope your mom's well. I'm going to probably have to start taking some layers off. It was like 50 degrees and raining this morning, and now I'm sweating. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to trim this up. I know you guys don't need this. Most of you guys probably don't need this lesson, but there's a couple people on my channel that I'm trying to help root on, because they're just starting to quilt. They just figured out a rotary cutter that they're comfortable with. So, trying to give them some good examples. And I'm sure that y'all have some tips for how you cut, or how you found it's comfortable to measure and cut. Okay, they're going to work. They're not bothering you. Well, they are, but they are allowed to exist too. I left the porch door open, and the neighbors who decided to build a house bigger than anybody, bigger than the lot warranted, and anybody else on the block, so they can hear you fart. They get the dogs going. They took my beloved woods, right? And stole it out from underneath me, but we're not going to go there this morning, because that would be rambling. And God has a purpose. Okay, so something's not straight with this piece, even though I straightened it up. So that edge is straight there. See, this is where you pause. That edge is straight there. So I must have not, probably getting a little tired. Go back and do this again. See, and that's what you want to do. You want to check and double check. And then some days, even when you check and double check, you'll end up with an oh shit, oh dear, oh my, and how did I do that? I did that the other night. I couldn't sleep, so I worked till 5 a.m. and I was working on a block and other things. I cleaned up and stuff like that. And I had some four pieces set to sew. And then I left them. I thought, oh, it's late. My brain's not, functioning real well. I'll take a, break and did it. And I came back the next morning. I stared at it. I looked at it. I put the pieces together and thought, I got this done before I have to go to this stupid pre-op appointment. Waste of time. And I opened up the first one, and it was not an in quote fact where it was just off a hair. It was noticeably off. And I'm like, really? And then the second one, then the third one. The fourth one was spot on, And I'm like, how did I do this even with double checking? So last night we had a seam rip, I and a friend had a seam ripping party, and I thought I'm really not in the mood to try that again this morning yet. So, see now, this is a nice 1 inch, 1 1/8 inch. That's a nice 1 inch once you trim it up. Anything smaller than that, I would be like, trim this up. It's just like, no matter how careful you are, I'm a daily crutch user. I have been for 25 years now. And 25 years. And been an amputee for 23, May 2001. And no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I'm aware and I'm careful, falls happen. You know, when the doctor comes in and goes, have you fallen in the last 3 months? It's like, you know, does a bear crap in the woods? But I've learned how to fall, if that makes sense. If I know I'm going down, I don't grab on like I'm on the Titanic and it's sinking, I don't seize up. I taught my crutches go out one way, one the other way, and I just go limp. And I go into the fall. And that has saved me from some serious injuries like busting my wrist. Now, have I hurt? Yeah, I had a Louvre-worthy bruise when I fell on the tile last year. I mean, it looked like some abstract Picasso or something. And it took a good, well, I had a hematoma about the size of my fist, and that took about 8 weeks to go fully away. And the bruise took a good month. I mean, it was, but I didn't break a hip. I didn't break a femur. Now, part of that is my doc says my femur, my left leg bones are about 3 times stronger than the normal person's because I walk on it every day. That's my sound leg. But I think the reason why I didn't was I let go of the pot of potatoes, something I had done 1,000 times, transferring from the sink 3 steps to the stove. I was on one crutch for my amputee. Let go of the potatoes, went down, can't even tell you what I hit, but it was on the tile floor. I'm in a puddle of water, and my sister's like, she's kind of chuckling because she saw the potatoes go down, and she said, you only lost 1 piece of raw potato on the floor. And the pot still had half its water. And she says, are you okay? And I said, I will be. And I'm mopping up the water while I'm trying to catch my breath. And I ended up going to the next day. Took me about 15 minutes to get up on a stool and about 15 minutes to come back here and catch my breath. I was functional. So I decided not to bombard the ED at that hour of the night, and I went to an ortho urgent care first thing in the morning. They took an x-ray, and I was told, you know, see your ortho doc, because you just did stupid, not serious. So you're going to cut, and you're going to sit there, and you're going to look at it, you're going to measure twice, 3 times, and sometimes you're going to get hairy, because you're going to miss something. And that's okay. That's why we have seam rippers. That's why we have times where we have to lay our perfection aside and go with it. So, like, this is not necessarily perfect, even though I cut it 7 inches. But I'm coming in to do my seam. I'm going to come up here and do my seam and go around. So I'm not necessarily going to miss that. Or if it really bugs me and I want more perfection, then I'll cut it down and use it for a 5-inch square. But this will hold just fine, because you're going to do your seam, and you've got to do a good quarter seam around to tuck everybody in. And if you're not quite straight over here, just go in and do a little bit of a wider seam. So basically, you're going to want this fabric to show through the gridded stuff. You wouldn't want to see your accent fabric through the back of this, like with this. So you're going to put these right sides together. And then you're going to want to do this pretty little thing. But I'm going to do this one for my sample because I like the little gingerbread house. And feel free to fussy cut or whatever, but I'm not fussy cutting this. Like if you wanted the gingerbread house in the middle and you want to trim off more, you can do that. I've done that. And so you put that wrong side down. And what you're going to do is you're going to start, you want to leave a hole. So you want to leave a hole about like that. Now this is real scientific measurement because you're going to turn this right side out so that this is on the top and this is on the bottom. So you're going to want to stitch down that way and that way. And if you need to, put a pin here so your brain stops. Some people put a pin here because it's like, oh, they don't want to sew this closed. And if I were first starting out, I might look at this and go, I'm going to make my mark right there at 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches is a good width. I've done these before, so I don't necessarily need to futz with perfect holage because it's going to get shown up. But I would probably do a 2.5 inch because you've got the bulk of this to turn through. And you're going to sew all the way around, 1/4 inch. And when we get that sewn, we're going to flip it. We're going to flip it right side out. And then there's 2 steps after that. Once you flip it right side out, you're going to, once you sew it together, you're going to trim all the way around it. Now, I like to round my corners. So I will say, there you go. If I want to round my corners, I can use a bowl. I actually found a ruler that does a really good job, but I'll find a bowl, I'll find a lid, I'll find an empty Captain Crunch bowl that's got stuff stuffed in it. Whatever you need to make a guideline for doing your corners. Like I said, for a long time, I used lids off the basting spray, bowls, plate corners, anything that was round that was the right size. I did find this ruler, and with a coupon, I think it was $5. It's called the Round the Corner by June Taylor. And I know, let me see. It's called Round the Corner by June Taylor. And all it is it's a simple ruler that has a small curve here, and it has a larger curve here. And when I do my bowl koozies, I prefer the rounded corner because it doesn't take much more. It makes it look like a flower. You know, we're just challenged today with our hands and getting this. So see, it lets you make a nice corner. And it has a large size and it has a small size and it has this pointy teardrop. I went for 3 years where I grabbed whatever was the size to give me a guideline for my corner. Sometimes I get lazy and don't mark my corner and I free wing it, which is probably what I did on this one because it looks a little sloppy. This is just nice because you just line it up with the edge right there. I normally wouldn't use my dark blue fusion, but I don't know where my favorite one is, so we're just going to go with it. So that's a guideline. Okay, that's not a hard line for me. I'm going to come up here, do this curve, come through, do this curve, come over here, screech around this curve, but it's not, I don't have to like, oh, I've got to follow this line. This is a guideline to help you make the curve. If I wanted to follow the curve, if you want to hard and fast follow the curve, then you get to futz with taking your little ruler here and putting it on a 1/4 inch, making it sure it's a 1/4 inch there, a 1/4 inch here, and then making your mark here. Because that's really kind of where your curve's going to be. I've never thought about it. It's probably smarter to do that, just never done it. So if you need the curve, the visual of the curve, and you need to stitch along that line, then you need to make sure you come in a 1/4 inch, at least a 1/4 inch up on the top and the bottom before you put your curve. Typically, I've just been slamming the curve up in the corner and using it as a guideline. And as I come up here in a 1/4 inch, I just kind of follow it with my foot. But if you need, everybody does something different. If it works better for you to do this, then stop and take the time to do a 1/4 inch measurement on the top and the bottom and tuck your curve in, because you can come right around and follow that. Probably would make for some more, you know, less freestyle curves, but a lot of times I'm doing a lot of bowl koozies, or I'm doing a lot, so I don't necessarily, I probably could make a template like I did for my bowl koozies. I used an old gift card and made a template for the pleats, so I could just boom, boom, boom. Instead of doing 12 measurements, I do 4. But for you guys, I just thought about it and realized that you can't follow this line exactly. This would be more for like the edge of your presser foot to give you the curved look. If you really need that, just bring your bowl or whatever you're using. You would just put your bowl here. See how that makes a good curve? It's as good as this. This is just handy because it's flat. It's easy to hold. It's inexpensive when you get it on sale. So there you go. So I've done my curve, got my pieces together. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. Don't know if I've got the camera set up good. I'm going to have to quit in a minute because I'm at 90 minutes. Thank you, Joe. Well, these little rulers, I think they run like $20 a set of 3. I don't know. But if you get a coupon for 40% off a regular price or 50% off, you're getting 3 good OmniGrid rulers. And like I said, all of them have this nice 1/4 inch seam line, so it makes it easy to check. And you get 3 sizes. And this one of the set, I wish I could just get 2 or 3 of this size, because I use this a ton. But they're nice because they give you one that is 12 inches. They give you that one that's 6. And then they have a baby one. Ah, here it is. Then you have this little bitty baby one that's 4 inches. And like I said, it's not for cutting. It's just for measuring and for checking your 1/4 inch. But like I said, I use this one the most. But sometimes that longer one comes in handy. Thank you, Deb. Really, Donnell? I'm 1 subscriber from 100? Wow. That just blows my mind. I mean, you guys tease me about how I talk or how detailed or that kind of thing. So it's kind of surprising that 100 people would want to tune in at different points. That's probably why I delayed 2.5 years making a channel, because I just didn't figure anybody would want to watch Stumpy Old Me. So in a month, to have 100, I've kind of doubled. Whoa. So I'm going to take this, and I can try taking you. I'm going to leave. How are you doing this morning, Deborah Sadmore? Thank you for joining. Hi, Joseph. Welcome. We're just puttering. We're having a little rambling, little earthquakes over here with the dementia dog and craziness, but it's always fun. So I'm going to take this over, and I'm just going to sew this part real quick. I'm not going to move everything. Shouldn't take me long to come around. And then I'll move the, well, actually, I'll move the camera over to the ironing setup table. That's good. That's good. Oh, well, Auntie Patricia, I hope that the kitties are good and you have a safe and a blessed day. I'm going to try. Now, you're probably going to see the ceiling or the floor because you know what? And you may even fall out of this thing. You may see my chin because I don't have two hands. I have two sort of hands because I only have one leg. So I kind of maneuver. I'll set my phone down and see this thing's loose again for some reason. I need to tighten that up. I'll set my phone down for a minute to look for something. See, now you're going to go wonky. So just look at this pretty thing for a minute. Oh, no, not that bag. Yeah. There's some pretty fabric for you to look at for a minute. I set my phone down for a minute to pull something out, and I had the camera on the back, you know, it flipped, and it's like, oh, it all got dark. Where did you go? What's the matter? And I said, well, I gotta free up my hand because I got one hole in my crutch and one hole in the fabric you want to see. And they go, oh, I was just worried it suddenly got dark. It's like, yeah, dark and stormy. So I do name my machines, and Hetty is my singer, featherweight, and I'm going to be sewing on Phoenix. She's my Bernina Wild Story Blessing that I got. That's a rambling for another day. I'm going to tighten you guys down. You know, this is a very good setup. No, I don't want to stop. This tripod thing is a very good setup, but for some reason this clippy thing, the clippy thing that holds my iPad in, just wants to be a pain in the butt. I've got you on my little ironing setup. If I have to iron something bigger. Too many knobs, guys. It's probably scary because you're probably seeing like my ski slope here. The conditions are really good today for a good run. Probably won't need to have the St. Bernards come out with liquor to rescue you unless you're really dumb and plow into a tree or something to create an avalanche. So just enjoy that. I had kids that picked on me about my nose. My father had the exact same type of nose, and it became more pronounced as he got older. See, this is the rambling part. And so I would come in every day and give them a weather report on the ski slopes, and it stopped them picking on my nose. I just found something humorous about it because it was one last thing in the often crappy craziness of my childhood. Was one last thing to be buoyed about, because as soon as I started coming in first thing before they got a word in edgewise and giving the ski report. So, hi Nancy. Oh, Cheryl says, I just got a quilt package to send a dear friend just as a gift of love, and now I'm working on some simple tote bags for a church quilt group. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joseph. Yeah, I just, I do the best I can, and you know, to stay mobile. And I think maybe and here's the thing, is it sad that I was bullied every day? Is my childhood kind of a scary place to talk about or think about or sad? Kind of. But there's a lot of redeeming stuff out of that darkness. There's a lot of places I've found the secret treasure. and those vast riches that God said that we would find in those places that we might know him. There's a lot where God turned evil for good. You know, I got through my amputation and losing my leg to negligence and malpractice. I had a very simple injury. Should have been simple in and out, arthroscopic surgery, 6 to 8 week recovery. And I spent 2 years at another hospital doing 5 surgeries before they said, oops, sorry. And my dad was, who I was closest to, he raised me when my mother said, I give up on you, more than once. He was in the last 2 years of his Alzheimer's. So, and I had lost my teeth, but there was so much going on. But some of the strength to get through that was strength that I learned in my childhood, getting through the CRUD, the childhood traumatic experiences. God used that later on. I mean, he did it with David. I mean, think about it. David was this scrawny shepherd kid that his family wrote off. They didn't even invite him to the anointing party when Samuel ran in. And Samuel first thought the first eldest son of, what was it, 6, 7? Oh, he's perfect, Lord. And God said, no. You're looking on the outward. The inward ain't going to cut it. And the second one, he goes, well, yeah, but this dude's perfect. And God says, nope. And he got to the end and he goes, is this all your sons? I've run out of candidates. And they said, well, David's out in the field. Well, David had wrestled a bear. And then he had killed a lion protecting his sheep. Then he takes his lunch out to his brothers who are standing in front of Goliath, who's killing the Israelites left and right and taunting them, this big giant. And he says, give me a chance. And they all kind of tried to, and he says, I got God on my side. So he goes and picks up some stones, and the king tries to put his armor on him. Here, use some armor. And it's too big for him. And he goes out, and he takes the stone, and he knocks the guy in the head, kills the giant, takes Goliath's sword, finishes the story. Oh, unalives Goliath. Sorry, it's a biblical story. Takes the sword, finishes the job, and that sword he used in a later battle. God had him use that sword of victory that was won off of faith, that was built off of his days as a shepherd, protecting his sheep, being written off by his family as the youngest ruddy little brat that's not going to accomplish anything but being out by himself with the sheep. All of those things were stepping stones to eventually when he would be anointed and have to run from a king who God said, don't vote into office. Don't put into office. We want Saul. No, it's not. They did that. Saul went mad and was consulting witches and doing tarot cards and all kinds of things, and Saul had a bad end. But in the meantime, Saul was insanely jealous of David and chased him. There's some great adventures. Boy, I tell you, don't tell me the Bible's boring. And you can't get a lot out of it, even the Old Testament. But all of what David went through, God did not waste. All those hours protecting the sheep, and God could have banished the bear. He did. He shut the mouths of lions with Daniel. I mean, yesterday somebody asked me about my knee, and I said, well, after my first surgery at Duke, trying to say, I had 20 degrees of motion. It was all froze up, and it was like this big, and I had gone from a grade 1 to the worst grade 4 meniscal tear, and the doctor's like, I could fix the damage this doctor did in like 3 months. After that first surgery, I knew I was fighting a losing battle, because I overheard something when they thought I was still under anesthesia between the chief resident and the surgical assistant. I know I'm rambling, but I told you there was a chance of this. And when I came home, I said, God, I know you can heal. I know it's your heart to heal. I know it's your heart that your people don't suffer. But what is your will? What do you want to do in this situation? I really would like you to heal my knee. I'm just getting my life together. And he says, healing your knee would be temporary. I want to do, my will is to do a deeper work in here and to use this. Will you trust me? And I mulled it over and I said, I have no choice but to trust you. Now, did I have any idea of what would happen? I think I've done about 8, 9 encyclopedia sets of adventures since then. I've almost died several times medically. I should have died several times. But I didn't, God knew I didn't need to know, because I would have gone, I demand that you heal the knee because you say you heal. I've gotten what's eternal out of that. Costly, painful, sacrifice. But I don't focus, so I have days where I grapple with it still. But I don't focus on the dark part. I focus on how God's used it. I mean, how much dead theology I had that he breathed life in. I could tell you all about grace. I could give you a whole several hours on biblical grace. But I hadn't experienced it like I experienced it when I was going through that trial of losing my leg. It became like a reality, and the Holy Spirit and God, the Godhood, Father, Son, they breathed life into that grace. Somebody asked me recently, says, I have a hard time believing in God, because if God's a good, loving God, they pick the big of the big three. If God's a good, loving God, why do people suffer? And give you a lot of theology on it, but I think that's something you end up having to have a personal revelation on, and some of it you're never going to understand, and the Bible says that our brains aren't big enough. Our brains are not big enough to comprehend. But that pushed me, and I thought, God, I've been walking with your son for 49 years, and I don't have a good, easy, concise answer for that. I've done a school of evangelism. I've done a discipleship school. I've done school worship. I've done school of biblical counseling. I've been on the mission field, and I don't have a good, not theologically dense answer that you can breathe life into and go, boink. That's what I got out of that conversation. And I will talk about the Godhood, Jesus, God the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. I'm not religious. Look up the definition of religious. That's not me. And I'm not the picture of religiosity. I have a relationship that's been cultivated over almost 50 years. And I will talk about my friend Deb, my friend Joe, my chosen sister Deborah, my chosen brother, my brother-in-law, my nieces, nephews, my father, my earthly father. In the same way, I talk about the relationship that I gained through accepting Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross, what the Bible says. And I have studied the Word. And I'm still learning. Every day I learn something. And I'm still figuring out. But I do know that God gave us a precious gift called choice. But it's a dangerous gift, because there's choices that go good. You know, it says be angry and sin not, which means anger is amoral. God didn't say don't be angry. Don't be angry that this injustice happened. Just don't do sin when you're angry. Process through it and get to the point where you can make peace with it and lay it down. He never said we couldn't be angry. Angry over loss, angry over injustice, and he never said that it'd be overnight or that it'd be a one and done. So I'm going to finish this rambling and get back to this, because Phoenix is ready for me. One thing I can say is there's a scripture in Isaiah that says, where God says, it pleased me to bruise him and to crush him, his suffering. And for years, I was like, God, how could it have pleased you to crush and bruise your son? How could his suffering have pleased you? You're a good, loving God. You could have swooped in and done something else. In 1989, when I was doing I condensed 2-year course on the island of Hawaii. I had a beautiful rare. They kicked us since they go off and pray and think and muddle things, ponder. And I wandered back to that scripture that I had chewed on, and he says, you don't get it. It wasn't the crushing, it wasn't the bruising, it wasn't the suffering that pleased me. It was what came out of that. The purest and finest wine only comes from bruising and crushing, and getting the dross off, the skins and the seeds and all that is left on the side. He says, I saw that my son's willingness to follow my will in the plan, his saying yes to my will, would lead to the restoration of the line of relationship, personal relationship, where you didn't have to go through a third party or an intermediary or a priest. We could once again go one-on-one, and I'll just finish with this because I've gotten off on a whole rabbit trail, and I don't know why, but God knows. God knows somebody's listening, I guess, that needs my rambling. But one of the first scriptures I learned was, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that we shouldn't perish. And it was 2019, August. And I'm puttering around in that scripture. I either heard it on something I was listening, but anyway, that scripture popped up. And all of a sudden it was like, dang, God, you had 10,000 plus reasons you could have slipped in there for offering us redemption for what goes back to choice in the beginning, because God didn't want robots. Choice that failed, starting with two people, not a woman, not a man, but both of them, with both different levels of responsibility. But it just blew my mind that for God so loved. I was talking to some Mormons about this yesterday. For God so loved. Now, his love is everlasting, and if you look it up in the Webster's 1854, everlasting has a beautiful definition. It means no beginning, no middle, no end. It's eternal. But it also means never interrupted. So when he says everlasting love, everlasting peace, when he uses that word everlasting, it's something that's never interrupted, no matter whether or not we believe in him or not, whether or not, Randy, you're perfect. There's no, nothing can separate us from the love of God. Not even ourselves, not even our, and God's not, if you go to God and go, I don't understand this is just really jacked. God's not going to go, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this. Because you need to be talking to him like you talk to your best friend, because he has already heard it and he already knows it. You don't put your best Sunday face on. It's a relationship. He's our father. He's our brother. He's our friend. He's our lover. I mean, there's all these aspects. So when I talk about any part of the Godhood, and I'll explain again, that's God, the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. They're independent, but they're intertwined. It's out of a place of relationship. It's not out of place of religion. I was very blessed to not be raised with an informational bias or a tie to a denomination. Because a lot of times, and there's nothing against this, nothing at all against this, but a lot of times we end up going to a church and we get with a group of people that all think kind of like us, and we get their belief, statement of beliefs, and sometimes we kind of become entrenched with that. I mean, there's a church, a big church, that if you don't read the 1854 King James Bible, you're not getting the true translation of the Word of God, and you're out of here. And we don't even want a fellowship with you. That's not God. God's not in that. Because number one, that's not the most accurate translation out there. Number two, it's a 12th grade reading level. The average person in the world has a 5th grade reading level. That's a 12th grade reading level because it's an archaic. It's written in Old English. So now, once again, you're tied to somebody to interpret it for you and hope that they're getting it right. And God said, when Jesus died on the cross, he said, no. I want my sheep hear my voice. Just like how it was originally. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I don't mean to offend. I don't mean to upset. But I'm here because of that one anchor. I'm here because the presence of God the Father was with me when nobody else was in a hospital ward at 2, 3, 4 years old. God was with me to the bullying. And then when I was 11, somebody said, did you know God had a son? And I was like, just let me meet him. And then I started figuring out who it was. And I was going through a lot at that time of my life. I mean, a lot. A lot of bad, dark stuff. So I read the Bible. By the time I was 18 in that 7-year period, I read the Bible from cover to cover 18 times because I was looking for answers. And I was asking for answers. And right before I turned 19, I ended up making the second decision to stick with him because I didn't think I would make it to 20. I did a 5-hour thing, and I did not think I was going to make it to my 20th birthday, so I had to decide. Either I give up because this is hard, and because of the childhood traumatic experience, and and no support, or I throw it all in, and at least I get the consolation prize. So I get to cross over, just like the thief on the cross that snuck in at the 12th hour, the 11th hour. And here I am 40 years later. Boy, we've done a lot in 40 years. Would I go back and change any of that? If I could go back and my leg. If I could go back and not be physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually abused. Gone through the injustices I have, being misunderstood. I'm still misunderstood. Because God was bored when he made me. I mean, he was like, okay, let's see if we give you a personality that's only 2% of the world's population. And with that personality, only 38% are women, so the majority are men. Let's see if we give you this gifting and all of this stuff. And loose you on the world. But, no, I wouldn't. Not even the last 6 years, which have been some of the hardest years of my life. I wouldn't change a thing because it would change everything and I would not have the riches I have. Would it be easier? Shoot, yeah. But we're going to get to selling this. So, I'm sorry if I told you it was cloudy with the chance of ramblings. And like I said, what you're going to get from me is what you're going to get from me. And the way I see the world is that if you look, you will see the good that comes out of the evil that's in the world. And you will learn from it, and you can grow from it, and you can have something to offer to somebody. The Jewish people say that if you alleviate 1/60th of somebody's pain or suffering or need, there's kindness, there's love, there's God. 1/60th. I mean, and where do we get the ability to do that? Working on the crap in our life. Now, my sister, she's proper. She's married to someone who has a piece of paper that says he's a pastor. He doesn't do it regularly. And she still thinks I need to get saved. She's religious. got all the boxes checked. She has everything on Sunday morning, but she has nothing there on Monday when her world falls apart. I will always have something. A few days ago, I was ready to go. I'm done. This is too hard. I'm tired. I'm hurting. This isn't working. I was mad. Went and had a talk with him, got some rest, got a snack, and here I am. Why? Because I went back to my anchor point and I said, this sucks and I don't get it. And I don't understand it, and you need to help me figure it out. The only reason why I'm back is because of him. I can't do this. The Bible says you can't do anything. Apart from me, you can't do anything. You're breathing because of him, whether or not you acknowledge he's there or not. And that's grace right there. He could have put in there, for God was so angry that you made the choice to eat from that tree, and it's trickled down, and you guys have done all this stuff, that he's got to redeem your butts. So he's going to send his son. They make any combination, but he boiled it down to love, and the Bible says his love is everlasting. That's just, to me, that I'm still working on that one. And that took me, what, a long time to get that deeper tidbit and see it was there. I mean, what was that? 2019 was 5 years ago. I was well into my 50s. And that, it's like, oh my gosh, how did I miss this all this years right there in front of me that you know, there was a famous preacher in the 1800s that a lot of people like to quote, sinners in the hands of an angry God. He did this fiery speech. And a lot of what people call apologetics, those people that defend the Bible and theology and can explain why they're suffering and yet God's good. In better terms than me, because I'm not a theologian. They love that sermon. It's not true. We're not sinners in the hands of an angry God. We're sinners in the hands of a heartbroken, loving, amazing God. And I'm going to finish my rambling with this. And I honestly don't mean to offend, but this is an integral part of my story. This is an integral part of my life. And if I'm going to talk about Randy, or I'm going to talk about my vintage friend Joe, or I'm going to talk about my chosen sister who God gave me when my family made me an orphan, I'm going to talk about God. I'm going to talk about Jesus. Because I have that type of relationship with him. And he and I talk about everything. And yes, there are times when I cuss in his presence. And it's not out of disrespect. It's because he already knows it's there, and I would have that conversation with a human. So why am I going to hide that stuff from God? God can't fix it if I don't work through it. You know, people love to tell you, be still, and know he's God. You know what the real interpretation from, I guess it's Hebrew? To be still means that you go and you wrestle with it, and you wrestle through it, and you find a place where you make peace so you can lay it down so then you can hear. It's not sitting there quietly going, bite my tongue. It's the messy process that Jesus went through in the Garden of Gethsemane. You know, he stressed so much that night, the capillaries in his face bust, and his blood mixed with his sweat. He wasn't this angelic thing on a rock. He was being still and knowing that his Father was in control, wrestling with, I don't want to do this. I really don't like this choice. Do I really have to do, is this really your will? And he spent a whole night wrestling with it. And then he came to the place where he worked through all the options, and he had this big honest conversation, and he goes, not your will, not my will, but your will be done. And he found the peace and strength and courage to go through the next few days. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't a halo with him on the rocks all night long. It was exhausting and so stressful that it broke capillaries in his face, and he was sweating and he was dirty. And then he turns around, and these soldiers come to get him. And Peter, I love Peter. I'm like Peter. One point I have my foot in my mouth, and the other point I've got God just kind of talking. And Peter does his brash, I believe it was Peter, does his brash thing, and I'll protect you, and he lops the ear of the soldier off that comes to take Jesus away, and God goes, no, 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 no. Boink, there's your ear back. After that night, and all that he knew was immediately ahead for him. I only do what I see the Father do. This is my relationship with him. I am not religious. And if you're uncomfortable with it, I'm sorry. Can't do anything about it because it's part of my story. And it's been woven in since before I was born. I should have died twice before I was born. That's been woven in my story. My mother fell down a two and a half story flight of stairs and landed on her belly, and the doctor said that she would lose me by morning. And then I survived that, and then they gave my mother thalidomide. That's why I had this leg problem and had other problems. But 90% of the babies that were born from mothers who in good faith took thalidomide were stillborn or died within a week. 90%. But God's cray-cray and has such an interesting sense of humor that here I am. Yes, Debbie, I was going to say that. I love you too, Cheryl. And thank you, Joseph. And thank you, Nan. And yes, Cheryl, there's a big difference between being religious and being a Christian. And, you know, a lot of people go, I'm not religious. And I go, I'm not either. Because they found that God wants you to have a relationship, and it will sustain you through anything. And if you skip the dark parts, if I would have demanded, God probably would have healed my leg. But look what I missed. I could have ended up like my 4 siblings who walk around as these proud Christians with their chest puffed out and the devil in their back pocket destroying people as they go along. Not helping people. Not even helping their own kin. Nah, I'd rather be poor, ornery, broken, trying to clean up my mess, disabled, struggling financially, doing health things, and I'm always say this, not just fighting to survive, but to overcome, because there's a big difference. That's an aside. Because when you survive, there's just pieces of you, and you're like, I made it, and you leave something behind. But then God picks up that survival mess, and he gives redemption here, and he gives revelation there, and he uses it in somebody's life, and he builds on it in your life. That's overcoming. That's when you become better. That's when you're able to see this is cray-cray. But you'll use it. You'll get me through it. So I'm going to sow this. And that's thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Joe. Nan, and those of you that have hung out, those of you that I've scared off, that's okay. There's another channel out there, and you know, I can't force anybody to believe like I do. And you're right, I'm just me doing my thing. Alright, Dementia Dog, what are you doing? I know, Molly, I should call you by your name, but I have 5 others. I've got to take a minute here because we've gone from 50 degrees to whatever, and it's almost 10 o'clock, so I got to kind of get this together, so I have some time to do a couple other things. But see, that's why I warn people. I do crafting, and I do quilting, and I do cooking, and I fix the car if it has to be fixed, and I'm able to. I think I lost my earpiece. Hang on a minute. You know, lay a floor in the hall. It may take me 6 weeks to do what I should be able to do in a weekend, but I've laid a pretty darn good floor. Never done it before, and it worked good till the hurricane warped the floor and we had to tear it out. That's why it's Wanderings. That's why it's not Joe's Quiet Quilt Corner. Maybe it should be Joe's Ramblings and Wanderings. Who knows? All right. So I'm just going to take this and carefully, so 1/4 inch, your standard 1/4 inch, leave about a 2.5 inch opening. You don't want it too large, but you want it comfortable enough. You want to take your time going around so you can get the bumpy stuff. There's a tip that I'll try and show you when we turn it out. Because yes, we're back to what we started with. Now on something like this, because I'm doing curves, I will turn my stitch length down a little bit, about 225, maybe a little bit lower, because when you're doing curves, you want a little bit of a smaller stitch length, because it'll hold it better and you won't have pokey holes. And at some point I will figure out and get the camera set up so you can kind of see me sewing this instead of doing it kind of like, but you know, I know there's a lot of places that just kind of do the sewing part and then jump back and come, there I am. But I'm figuring this out. I did get you on my sewing table, and then I got off on a real ramble that I did not expect. Now, basically, I go 1/4 inch, and I use that little circle edge to kind of give me a guide, and you hear me stop. When I'm stopping, I'm just letting the fabric relax. I'm making sure it's still pretty much even and it hasn't shifted. And then I come around, and you can tell, so I'm on the straightaway. I'm gonna go on the straightaway. And see, I'm coming up on a curve, so I'm kind of calculating my curve here. And I lift up because when you're going around the curve, you kind of want to just pause a couple times because your fabric will kind of try and pucker a little bit and kind of bunch up. So if you just kind of stop and go for a second, it can help your fabric kind of relax, and so when you turn it out, hopefully it isn't quite so, doesn't have like a wrinkly look. Like this came out as well. Oh, that works pretty nice. You know, I have never thought about actually drawing my curve a 1/4 inch in and following it. Duh. I've always just slapped it on the corner and just used it as a guideline, although that does save 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 steps by slapping it on the corner and then just using it as a guideline. Or maybe not 8, but anyway, it saves some steps not having to stop and doing the 1/4 inch measure in, but it does make it a little more comfortable, I think, for some people. And that's what you do, you find things that help you. Now, see, I could do this as a tutorial, and you probably have this done, besides the cutting time, you probably have this done, like, bumpity bump, instead of 2 hours. These are really quick projects. And if your curves aren't perfect, like in fact, it's funny because the one curve I have a little full lumpity bump over here. I gotta go back here because I've lost my chat. Thank you guys for those who have hung out. So there it is. See, I just sewed around it about 1/4 inch, and I have this little hole here. Now I prefer pinking shears. It saves me time. I could go around and clip these corners like this, and they go dun 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 dun, or take these out of it. If I take a pinking shear and I start, see, here's my hole for turning, and I start like this, and I just trim it up close but not too close all the way around. See all that bulk it gets rid of? I do this with my bulk cookies too. All this bulk is gone, and then your corner folds out flatter, just kind of like you did the little doink doink doink, you know, the little like that, to make your corner. You can go through and do all 4 corners like that. You can cut a V out, 3 or 4 V's out like that, or you can find a pair of decent pinking shears if you can, and trim all the way around, get the excess bulk off of this, and then do your corners. And to me, it's less tedious than doing all the little the little cuts or the little V's, and it helps your corners lay out good. Look at all that bulk. Now, and that's the thing. I will often, I guess I'm kind of naughty like this. I will often take something that I learn, and I'll tweak it, and I'll figure out the tips and tricks they just kind of forget to tell you or they don't use. So I've got it cut like this all the way around. Go. Now, this is another thing that I do. Where I picked it up. I'll knock that on the floor and I'll get my broom later. You have this seam here. I'll trim off this frame, trim this up. I will, and I'm going to go ahead and try, without losing you, to get you reoriented here, so you can see which button. There you are. Oh, I just learned something. This is not a very expensive tripod, but it's pretty good. Now, hold on. I'm trying not to give you a migraine or something. But I'm trying to get you so you can see. Morning, Giovanna. Okay, so what I do, and I'm going to plug my iron in, because I don't leave my iron plugged in unless I'm using it. If I'm back here in my nook and I'm working, I'll have it plugged in and turned off, but if I'm not, what I do is I snip right here. I have sewn a reinforced seam here. So I go in, I do two, 3 stitches, back stitch, come up here, and then back stitch and go around. Then I'll stop, I'll come up, I'll sew, reinforce it, and come out. This kind of helps it when you're turning it, but I don't just then turn it. One thing that I found is if I snip this right about 1/4 inch before I turn it, and then I come over here and I snip the back side, and then I fold it down. Now see, fold it down like that. Then I'm going to take this little, I'll deal with this in a minute. But you see, what I'll do on a bowl koozie or something like this is I'll go like this, and you have to be careful. But I'll get this either with this roller, and I don't have my seam roller, or I'll just hit it with just a tad of heat. Now, when I'm doing something that doesn't have little rubbery mass that can cause Chernobyl meltdown, then I'll just iron it normal. But you see how that, I tuck that seam down before I turn it. This helps keep it from tearing more here. It still does happen. And it just makes it easier when you get to the other side. And then I'll get my purple thing. One of my favorite tools is my purple thing. And we'll flip this puppy out. So you see, if you don't get off on a rabbit trail for like an hour, this is a very easy project to do. Because you cut the squares, or you grab trumpacks if you're doing small ones. You get some shelf liner, you cut it out, and then bada boom, bada bing, and here you are. And like I said, if you don't want to do rounded corners, you don't like to do rounded corners, do them pointy. Poke your eye out. I like to do rounded corners. Why? Because rounded corners just look a little bit more, just have a nice touch to them. And my rounded corners are not always perfect. So you see, there you go. So now, this isn't as frayed or ratty. And if I was doing a bowl koozie, it would have held a little better, because I wouldn't have had to worry about this little Chernobyl rubber meltdown. But that's my tip. If you have a hole and you're turning something, take the time to trim it, to reinforce it, trim it, and tuck it in, you know, and fold it over a 1/4 inch. Because you can futz with it later. You know, I'll futz with it a little bit before I sew it. I'm going to be danger woman. I don't have my iron on hot. I'm just going to try and iron this down a little bit. But there you go. Now all we have to do is do a 1/4 inch top stitch around. I usually start up here and close the seam up. I did leave these here because you want to make sure they get caught to get held. I wish they were a little bit longer, but they're not. So Elmer's glue and a couple clips, so I don't have to fight with this little thing. Design board, stay up there. I know you're half done and you want your top dressing, but we'll get to it. So here, a little bit of Elmer's glue. This will dry. It's washable, non-toxic. It'll dry in a couple minutes. Smear a little bit of that on. And that will hold this in place until you get it sewn down. You are not fighting with it. It is much easier. You see how that's tucked in? I'm not going to snip those threads. I'm going to tuck those threads in so it gives a cleaner finished look. Because a lot of people would be tempted to snip those. So now I've got that set up kind of like I like it. I'm going to futz with this little edge here because it didn't come out quite as clean. But see, if I poke it in like that, I'll take one of my little clips. Now that'll dry. That'll dry by the time I'll get over there to sew it. But see how it kind of makes it clean? It holds this rubber stuff in. You're not trying to pin it, fight with it. A little bit of Elmer's glue. I'll probably do a 3rd clip. Now, some people have asked me, only Clover makes these with the real precision tip. I have 3 sizes. I have this, I have the regular, and then I have these monster ones. Only Clover that I have found makes these with the micro tip. If I can find my camera. I use these probably 90% of the time, because if I want to get them right there, and you go, oh, but clover's so expensive. I have seen a box of 50 of these on Amazon consistently for the last 2 months, between $15 and $18. So, you know, for a few days it'll be as low as $15 for 50, but the last time I looked at it, it was 18. Now you go into a quilt store, they'll say $50 for 50 of them puppies. You go into Joann's, they have them priced high, Michael's. Do a little bit of hunting and you'll find them. No, Debbie, I've been futzing with this sinus stuff for a week and a half, and actually I'm doing better. I mean, last Monday and Tuesday, after the dog mayhem, I sounded like I had frogs living in my throat, but I appreciate it. I make these, but yours are better constructed. I have to make some like yours. Well, thank you, Debbie. Like I said, I poke around and I find tips and figure out things. Sometimes I pull from different sources. Now, if you struggle, now usually I prefer the top stitch on this because that's the cleaner stitch. With this, if I'm not in the mood with playing with this, I'll just do the top stitching on this side, because then I know I'm going in about 1/8 of an inch, but I'm really catching this to tack it down. But if you're going to, and I think I'm gonna try. If you're gonna try and do, you see how this is floppy, and a lot of people go, I'm done, and it's floppy. I take a simple zigzag stitch and put it here and here. That gives it more stability. That gives it a better grip. Takes 2-3 minutes. Doink, doink, doink. Or you can do a straight stitch. You can do a decorative stitch of hearts. I have done the little zigzag, and I've done decorative stitches in the corner to put a heart. Yes, they will hold hot plates. They're good for even if you need a toaster for like a kid. These are great because they don't slip as much. They're cotton. But you see how I could have used this fabric on the inside. That's the lazy man's way of doing it. It's pretty, but you're wasting the beauty of this on here. I just found a scrap of blue to accent it, because you're going to mostly see this. It looks pretty in your kitchen. It helps protect your hands. So anyway, the point is if you want a top stitch here, so you have the top stitch on top, as you're stitching it, hold this side up a little bit. Just hold this side up a little bit as you're guiding it through, and it does not stick as bad on the machine. You can use the super slider, the super slider that they use for free motion. You can use, some people say wax paper. You can turn it over and use a Teflon foot. Work smarter, not harder, but do what you need to do that works for you. And what I do is if I'm going to sew it, so the pretty stitches on top and the little bobbin stitches on the bottom, I just hold this up a little bit, and I find that it goes through the sewing machine just fine. And like I said, the first ones I made like everybody had me do, and I thought, ooh, don't like this. And so I added that little zigzag stitch. I think I started with, where did I throw the sample? I think I started with the straight stitch, just like a little cross. You could do it as an axe, but usually I just take a little wavy zigzag. Here's the dog's. Oh, here it is under scraps. Um, I just take a wavy zigzag and I make it wider and go down the middle because it's just boink boink. I got the thread in there already. And you see how much more stability this has? It grips better, it takes it off. And this is, oh, pick a stitch, doink, bloop, bloop, that's it. I mean, it's not hard, it's not a lot of added work to add this little decorative stitch. And like I said, if you want to futz with your machine and see if it'll put a nice big row of hearts down here, go have a party. Like I didn't pull this top stitching out. I was in a hurry. This is like probably the third one I made. I was in a hurry. This one stayed at my house because it's got really sucky stitching here. It's like my drunk stitching, but it's functional. Now this one will probably have to be recycled or something. You know, I may cut these 2-inch squares out, reuse them for something, and toss the rest or something because it, like I said, it has traveled. But 2 years, that's not bad. And if it had stayed in the kitchen and behaved itself and not wanted to wander, welcome back, Cheryl. We've been rambling and wandering. So I have this. I'm going to take it over to Phoenix. I can try and get you set up a little bit over here. I have 4 areas I work in my nook at. I have my machine here. I have a little ironing spot there. I have my original cutting and work table, which is where I was making the gnomes. And then I have my 5-foot butcher block table that God helped me source out on the but there's Phoenix. I don't know how well you can see it. Phoenix is the nicest thing that I've ever owned, and she's a beauty. Well, look at that. Non-professional doot. You get a bird's eye view. So see, now the glue's on there. If it's not really shifting, so take out a couple of those clips. I got I'm top stitching. So I'm going to go for my shorter stitch on the curve because I'm top stitching back up to like a 3. Because you don't need a tight stitch like you do holding the inside. Holding the inside. So here's my hole. And I've got the guts tucked in pretty good. Got my edge, I think, pretty good. I want to go about 1/8 of an inch. So I know on my sewing machine that if I'm hitting this inside edge of my presser foot with the outside edge of my, that's about 1/8 of an inch. Now, is it like, if I measured it, would it be a perfect 1/8 of an inch? I can't swear by that. But, see, I can watch this edge of my presser foot try and bump along the outside edge, and I know that I'm going to be fairly even all the way around. Because I've learned that this is about an 1/8. I've learned where this particular foot does an 1/8, a scant quarter, and a quarter. And I watch my foot. And that's kind of how I sew a little straighter. But then you'll get some drunk sewing sometimes when I'm tired. Yeah, it's not pretty sometimes. So I hold my strings. But see how that's just going right through there? I'll put a couple back stitches. I don't put a lot of back stitches because you know what? I'm just going to swing right around here and I'm going to run over that. So when I swing right around here and run over that, I'll back tack a couple times and we're good. So this may not be totally perfect but if I need to, I'll just lift this up to help it go through so it don't sticky. Now, I would say if this is like your first rodeo or you slow down a little bit. But see, I'm watching my presser foot here on the side. But I'm going to stop on the curve and try and get it to flatten out a little bit. Because you kind of, and this is what I was saying, but you couldn't see before because I didn't want to like have to move. But you see how that really doesn't stick too bad. And you're getting the nice, crap, I forgot to change my thread. Well, that's all right. It looks good enough. I was going to change to a baby blue. But that cream, called butter. How appropriate for a kitchen thing to have thread in your, called butter. It's what I use a lot for piecing and for doing the underwork is butter, unless it's dark. Now, if it starts sticking, you just lift it up a little bit and get rid of that little bit of suction and just keep a loose hold on it. And if it's not perfect, this is like, I've had to tweak my brain on this because I'm often harder on myself than God. This is not all, your outside edge is not going to necessarily be perfect because you got bumpies underneath of it. Like, hello. Even if I like slowed down and took quite a while, you may have some bumpy spots on here because you got bumpies underneath. But hopefully nobody's taking a magnifying glass and inspecting that as they use it to open their jar. That's all. That's just what I'm saying. And yes, I do have a magnetic guide that has the little plastic ruler that you put your needle through that says 1/4 inch and you slide. And I got the washi tape and I got the honey sew stuff or the cluck sew stuff. Work smarter, not harder. And do what works for you. If working smarter, not harder, is putting something like that on your machine, put it on your machine. But as you use that aid, keep an eye on where your presser foot is. Because if you're watching your needle, you can go off to Kansas. Or you can be in Kansas and they'll be going, oh, you ain't in Kansas no more, Toto. Definitely. Because your needle will go wherever the presser foot is. So you got to keep an eye on your presser foot. And if you use the same one, and that'll throw you off if you have to change machines. But if you use the same feet for like top stitching and piecing all the time, like this is the go-to foot for piecing and top stitching, I've spent enough time with it in the last year because Phoenix is not that old. She's a little bit of a diva, but I spent enough time and done enough projects that I know kind of where the edge of my presser foot should be, even without the markings on here or anything else. But find something that works. But even like I said, so see now I'm back at the beginning. I'm over sewing a couple stitches. I'll do my back stitch and plop it out. Now, I am going to go ahead and change out my thread, which I meant to do on the edge when I do my middle stitching because golly. And I probably should have done this edge a little bit cleaner, but it's held down and it's good. This is it's easy to sew. It's not hurting your machine. I just have a top stitch needle in there. Could I put my leather needle in there, my vinyl needle? Yeah, but even if you choose to sew it on this side, so you can watch where it's going over the bumpies, Yeah, you could do, I mean, you don't need a special needle, in my opinion. And why don't I have any baby blue? Because I have it right here. Where are you hiding? Right in front of my face. And some of this is, I've done a lot of these things. You know, I sit down and I go, oh, I'm just going to try something. And I make a couple prototypes. And then a lot of times they're like, oh, want that. And we're off to the races. So I've made, you know, like with the gnomes. I can make them gnomes like I make those gnomes because I've made so many over a 3-year period. So get my thread out because I tell you what, I want it to look good. And not that this kind of creamy butter doesn't look fine on this because I have the dough and stuff. And I'm sorry that I'm not watching the comments right at the moment, but I only have so much hands and stuff like that. I'm going to use a little bit of a darker top stitch thread that's top stitch. I do have like a baby blue that I could use on this and it would blend in a little better, but I'm like, I'm going to live on the edge this morning with this one and get this in there. And I need to get Phoenix in for a spa, but that's an hour drive each way, and money. Ow. So I give you a spa day or get new underwear. You get new underwear if you need it. So I'm just going to do my zigzag stitch. I'm on, let's see, it's not a zigzag stitch that goes like your traditional. It's like a wavy zigzag. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but you'll see it in a minute. And I just wavelengthed it out so it's not so tight. Ooh, that wasn't good. Ooh, that's because I got the wrong foot on. It's not gonna let me do it. Ooh, that's a pain. It means I gotta change feet. Yeah, this is my patchwork foot, and it doesn't have the throat for the zigzag, so if I do it, if I do it and don't put the right foot on, it looks kind of sucky. The right foot in the right plate, it'll look like a strangled cat, or a cat that you tried to bathe. Not pretty. Oh my gosh. So on my machine, I have a plate that has a hole that helps keep when you're doing piecing and doing top stitching. I just cleaned her yesterday morning, didn't do much on her, but I noticed a little bit there since I have the plate off. Now this is a standard plate, and you see how this hole is wider? That's what you have to use when you're using a stitch that's like any kind of zigzag or decorative stitch, because it's going to go like this. Most of y'all just have the foot that has the hole where your needle can go back and forth like this. This one is very narrow. See the space for the needle down here is very narrow right here. That one is called a patchwork foot. So I put just a regular foot on to give it freedom. Now, I used to just do like poop singers, you know. I used to have a decent singer machine. And then because of the damn-demic, I got blessed with the Baby Lock. Then Baby Lock, they done me wrong. and they didn't back the customer. So I know Baby Lock's very popular. I know a lot of people love Baby Lock. I have nothing wrong with Baby Lock. I was going to be a Baby Lock user for life until what they did with my machine and how the dealer treated me and how the dealer. So my experience was just bad, but one thing I found out through that is Baby Lock said, we don't, our dealerships are up for grabs. You can, if you can plump down the money, you can have a Baby Lock sign and sell Baby Locks. And we have no governing, of how you run your dealership, how you price your machines, whether or not you run your competitors out of price because you sell your Baby Locks real cheap and you're independent. There's 2 or 3. Now, see, all I did was I took this and I just smushed it like this in half so that I had a center line. And then I took it and I smushed it like this so that I have the center line. And then I'm just going to kind of shade it a little bit and use that center line as my guide. Now, if you need to, please get a piece of chalk or something. I mean, I would suggest chalk because it's the top. I would not suggest using the friction pen because you got it in the kitchen. You may be putting drinks or stuff on it. Opening things are cold. Okay, why aren't you moving? Come on. So see, I'm holding this up. It got a little stuck at the top. I might have to fix that. But by holding this up, see how it just kind of goes through there, let it do its thing. And I'm using this right here, this fold, which I can see, keeping it kind of in the center of that mark on my foot. Go down here. So you see, it really doesn't take, especially if you have the right thread in there. Put up. Put up. And so, do you have to do this? No. This step? No. Does it make it look nicer? Yes. Does it make it more stable? Yes. Does it take, what, an extra, at most, 5 minutes? So see, all I've done is folded this in half to kind of give me the center instead of measuring. And I've got a good divot in there. I could use my hair marker. If I was taking a little more time and not trying to get this forever video finished, I could take a hair marker, which is like a bone type thing, and put it on there. I could take my ruler and put a crease in there. But I have enough of a crease, and I've done this enough that, now see, this side will be a little easier because I got 2 strings to kind of help me get it started. But see, I just kind of hold it up. No fight, no fuss. I have a little line on the center of my presser foot. I kind of keep that line where my little crease was made. Then I don't have a friction mark I have to worry about. I don't have a chalk mark I have to worry about. But that's how I do my bowl koozies and plate koozies. I just fold them and put a little crease in there. A little line in there that wears out for me to follow. Oh, this one's actually cute. I'll have to look and see if I have any more of this fabric. Because this is just a remnant. Well, I did cut out 4. I could make some smaller ones. So I probably got plenty, but I do want to try and keep a bit of it. Because I think I only need 16 inches to do a kitchen scarf. Then I trim it up, and I'll move you over here, put you on Eco. See, that's another nice thing about Phoenix, is she has a sleep mode. So when I when I'm not using her, she'll all my settings and whatever I've been using, it will stay there like it's turned off. But I just have to doink it, and she wakes back up and goes, "I'm ready to play." If she's not being a diva. But I've changed my foot out and my plate out so I won't sit down and go, "Whoa," you know. Because sometimes if I don't change out my feet and my plate, the foot, because I use the patchwork foot. That's why I say, if you want to, I'll talk about work harder, not smarter, and I change out my foot and my, but a lot of times what I will do is I do all the, okay, if I'm doing like 5 of these, I will do all the work on all of them except for this middle part. And then when I have like 5 of them or whatever with this color thread, then I'll change all this stuff out, pop them down, and do them all at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So I don't change my foot. I don't change my foot and my presser plate for each one. I batch sew. So I will do all my straight stitching, and I'll do a stack, and then I'll do all the inside part, get them all turned out, and then I'll swap colors, and I'll do them by color. And then I'll swap out the foot in the plate and do the center. And I do a wavy whatever just because it's an added touch. I'm going to take this back to my regular. I'm going to change the plate. See, now this is a sensitive little thing. So you put in what, it likes to know what foot it's using. I never thought I would have anything like this. I've never owned a car that cost more than $800. Never owned a house. Never had a boat or anything like that. And I got this rocking machine. And that's all a God story. But there you go. I use this in varying lengths just because it looks nice. You could do a straight stitch, and like I said, there's a lot of machines that have decorative stitches, and you can do some flowers. You can do a flower in the middle and then do a straight. The sky's the limit. The one I showed you on my phone, and I probably should check chat because I was sewing, but let me go find it real quick. I gotta take some meds too. See this one? I put little hearts. No, it's not going to show. It was showing over there. But anyway, I can't get it to show now. But anyway, I did a little open heart here. Went to my decorative stitches, put some red in, went bloop, and did a little heart that was open like that, bloop, bloop. And over there on the desk, it was showing real good this morning. Was it necessary to add a little heart here? No, but this was this lemon one I showed you guys this morning that showed up like the bomb. I was playing. I was like, what happens if can I do this decorative stitch? And what does it look like on it? Sky's the limit on the touches you want to add and how complicated or not complicated. But I'm going to set you up right here. I'm going to, and what I'll do, the last step, is I'll take an iron that's like on wool, set on wool, and just give it like here. Just a little touch to set the stitches. Just a little touch of heat. And there's your cozy. There's your dark ripper. Now, isn't that pretty? And honestly, I think I've been on 2 hours. Maybe 2.5. Which doesn't seem unusual. Oh, I got some gray hair. I earned every one of them. I ain't dyeing it. It doesn't take that long. If I did an actual tutorial and I wasn't planning on just cutting some and puttering today, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and yeah, it's going to take you longer than make the first few. It is. And then you're going to get the knack down. And look, see that? That's from a guy at Duke. And matches the one over here. From a guy, one here, from a guy 98, and one here from, anyway, sorry about that. See? So that's it. This is the 7-inch one. So you have 2 7-inch squares and a piece of grippy. So once you have your squares cut, you can batch sew this and do all the insides and flip them out all at the same time. Tuck in the edge where you have the opening, and then do all the top stitching and all the little wanky things last. And that's what I do with my bowl koozies. I have some here. These are ready to sew together. There's like 3 or 4 here. And they're all ready. This one doesn't have its darts. These are all ready for darts. So I'll put darts in these, and then I'll sew them all together. Then I'll do then I'll get something to go, and then I'll flip them right side out, and then I'll change the color. So I'll do all the blue ones, then I'll do all the yellow, black, whatever. So I change out my stuff once. Are you guys trying to steal my moose? Or my penguin? That guy's been pushing me out of my chair. So that's what I do. If I know, I don't tend to do 1 or 2. I will do a whole handful of these, because the lady at church that said she wanted the ones I gave her last year, 2 years ago I gave her some, and she says, I just want more. So I know she wants at least 2. And I know the other little old ladies, as soon as they see these again, they're going to, oh, wait a minute. So I'll batch sew, and then I'm going to take some up to my vendor friend, because I think these are good stocking stuffers, put a few dollars on it. So anyway, I'm going to finish up. Thank you very much. Yes, you could do it corner to corner. You could very easily do it corner to corner. That's what I'm saying. This part is something I added because I like the stability. I've not seen a tutorial or anything where anybody adds the extra 2 lines, but Giovanna, yes, you could do it very simply corner to corner. You could leave it off. But the first 2 I did were very floppy. You saw how floppy this was and how separated the layers were. And I thought, well, there's got to be a fix for that, so I did a simple stitch. And I probably did it like this, because this is how I do my bowl koozies. I'll do the stitching like this, and then I fold it on that stitching and do my pleats. So that's probably muscle memory, because I don't use an X for my bowl koozie. I use a plus. And then I fold it on the plus, and then I use my little homemade gift card template. Boink, flip it over, boink, boink, put the corners on, and it's ready to go. And like I said, you can use any stitch you want. This is a zigzag, kind of elongated, and got a little wanky in the middle. You can use a straight stitch. Any basket weave, you can use a decorative stitch. It's just basically to help hold it down and give it some stability. I love you guys. I thank you for people who've wandered out, wandered back in, people who've put up with my rambling. I guess doing a 10-minute intro video or 5-minute intro video, that's kind of hard for me because I'm not flat. It's hard for me to put everything in a little round hole, and that's nothing against the people who can. I wish some days I could. I'm a little more complex. I'm not textbook. A little more complicated. A little more layered. But thank you for putting up with me. I love you guys. I hope you guys have an awesome day. You have a good day. Stay safe, Giovanna. Thank you, Joseph. Love you too. Linda. Yes. Oh, it's a serpentine stitch. That's what Linda said. She calls it the serpentine stitch, not this stitch. She said is a serpentine stitch. I always thought it was just a form of the zigzag. See? Number 2 this morning. Actually, number 3, because I had a big revelation at 1:43 in the morning when I was walking down the hall. I was like, blew my mind. I had to write that one down. But it was a question somebody else asked me yesterday, and all of a sudden I'm walking in, boink, and it's like, really? That kept me up for another half hour. So this is number 3 that I've learned something today, that this is a serpentine stitch. Always learning. So, thank you, Joseph. My dogs are really, really good. Thank you very much, Joe, Cheryl, Deborah. I hope your journey into town is good. Oops. Well, Debbie, you got like foghead when you have a fever, and I mean, last week I was miserable with this, and it's just kind of lingered. I don't know why. It's just going around. I don't know. It's weird. So, bless you guys. Thank you for rambling. I'll try and I have a list, and this is on the list of tutorials along with some other things. Basically, this morning I didn't work on my angels. I didn't work on this special block that I'm working on or some other things because I wanted to accomplish something. I have to leave for the doctors at 2:15 for my little 10-minute hand treatment to see if that helps my osteo part of my arthritis. Psoriatic was something else. I wanted to accomplish something, and I knew I needed some of these. And of course, when I get on and I'm working on a project and I'm cutting fabric and stuff, you guys kind of want to see what I'm playing with. So I usually end up giving a mini tutorial when I don't get off on an hour rambling to try and express myself. But I love you guys. Thank you for those who've hung out for a long time. Thank you for the short time. You guys are amazing. You're just amazing. And I love you. You have a blessed day. Don't know when I'll pop up again. And I am trying to work on the tutorials. It's just timing and things that come up. So anyway, I love you. Have a blessed day.